Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. The tiny puppy bumbled around clumsily, its wobbly steps betraying its tender age, surely no older than 2 months. Its coat, a brindle pattern that hinted at a boxer's lineage, also suggested the presence of other breeds in its ancestry. When it spotted the woman observing him through the metal bars of the cage, he instinctively turned on his charm. Tail wagging fervently, he scurried eagerly to the front of his enclosure. The woman reached through the bars, her hand extended in a gesture of warmth. Sensing his chance, the little dog enthusiastically licked her fingers, as though believing this display of affection would secure him a forever home. Her expression softened. The corners of her lips lifted slightly, and her gaze turned tender, giving the puppy reason to think his instincts were correct. His tail beat a happy rhythm as he lavished her hand with more licks. Her eyes shimmered with emotion as she glanced at the man crouched beside her. "This one," she declared with quiet conviction. The man gave her a doubtful look. "And you'll be the one feeding him, walking him, and taking care of him, right?" His tone carried enough skepticism that even the puppy seemed to catch the undertone. "Of course," she replied confidently. "He'll be my little sidekick. Wherever I go, he'll come along. He'll protect me, and he'll be a part of my world." Her resolute tone didn't erase the memory of similar promises the man had heard before, promises that rarely panned out as planned. From ambitious garden projects, to complex cooking experiments, to mentoring a student overseas, many of her endeavors had quietly shifted onto his shoulders. He sighed, already resigned to what he knew was coming. For love, sacrifices are often made. "Fine," Michael Taylor relented, directing his words to the shelter employee nearby. "We'll take the one with the eager eyes at the front. Get him ready. He's coming with us." The shelter worker shook her head gently. "Not quite yet," she explained. "He needs to be neutered first. If all goes smoothly, he'll be ready for pickup in a couple of days." "Perfect," Addison Taylor interjected before her husband could respond. "We'll pick him up in 2 days." As Michael rose from his crouch, muttering under his breath, his attention was drawn to a man nearby stealing a glance at Addison. The man's gaze lingered too long, his intentions clear. Michael smirked knowingly. This wasn't the first time someone had ogled his wife. Her striking figure often garnered unwelcome attention. Addison, oblivious, had grown accustomed to ignoring such incidents. The puppy, who soon grew into a strong and spirited dog, initially enjoyed Addison's doting care. She diligently fed him, took him for walks, and played with him regularly. However, within 3 weeks, her enthusiasm began to fade. As expected, the daily responsibilities fell to Michael. With Michael assuming the role of primary caregiver, the dog's loyalty shifted. While he still greeted Addison with a wagging tail, it was evident his strongest bond now lay with Michael, the one who consistently met his needs. One day, Addison quipped, "You should handle him since he seems to like you more." Michael's reply was dry but pointed. "He likes me because I actually take care of him. Dogs are simple creatures, unlike some people I know." Sensing where the conversation was heading, Addison quickly diverted his attention. With a coy flutter of her lashes and a playful tilt of her chest, accentuated by her snug pink top, she changed the subject. Michael's captivated gaze signaled her success. Men, she thought wryly, are easy to manage. In contrast, she viewed herself as the more complex half of their relationship. But that complexity weighed heavily on her, as she carried a secret she feared could one day unravel their seemingly perfect marriage. The Taylors had recently marked their 10th wedding anniversary, and Michael believed their union was rock solid. Their disagreements were trivial, like friendly arguments over baseball teams, and he saw no cracks in their foundation. Addison worked as an assistant to the vice president of a global insurance firm. For 6 years, she had supported William Trexler, a man she both admired and respected. Over time, their professional relationship had grown warmer, and even Michael had come to like William, who occasionally joined the Taylors for social events alongside his wife. Initially, Addison saw William as nothing more than a charming colleague. Still, his lean frame, salt and pepper hair, and kind brown eyes didn't go unnoticed. His polished British accent, a remnant of his education abroad, added to his allure. Despite her attraction, Addison had always remained faithful to Michael. She found her husband's athletic build, expressive blue eyes, and steadfast devotion deeply appealing. Their love life was fulfilling, and she cherished his loyalty. However, their work lunches began to take on a more personal tone, and one afternoon, an extended lunch break changed everything. The chemistry between Addison and William ignited in a way she hadn't anticipated, and their connection crossed a boundary. To her surprise, she felt no guilt afterward. From that moment on, their secret meetings became a regular occurrence. Though Addison's affection for Michael remained intact, the thrill of her affair with William brought an undeniable excitement to her life. She convinced herself that her love for her husband was unaffected, even as she pursued intimacy with her colleague. Her double life was meticulously concealed. With her natural organizational skills, Addison juggled her responsibilities seamlessly, even finding amusement in how easily she deceived Michael. Still, a shadow of unease lingered. She knew it was only a matter of time before her actions caught up with her. The truth came to light one evening in a way she hadn't foreseen. While Addison worked late, Michael picked up her tablet to browse online. His curiosity was piqued when he stumbled across two separate delivery addresses, one for their home and another linked to William. The realization struck Michael like a blow. Consumed by a storm of anger and heartbreak, he poured himself a strong drink and began to plan his next steps. Despite his fury, one fact remained clear. His love for Addison hadn't diminished. What happened next would determine whether their marriage could be saved or irrevocably broken. When Addison arrived home, humming softly, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Michael's usual warmth was conspicuously absent. "Is everything all right?" she asked hesitantly. "Not even close," he replied, his voice tight with emotion. Addison froze, the weight of her decisions suddenly pressing down on her. For the first time, she felt the full gravity of her actions and wondered if the truth had finally caught up with her. Acting on impulse was a foreign concept to Addison. Instead, she was overcome by self-doubt and chose to hold back, believing it wiser to tread cautiously. She resolved to observe her husband's behavior more closely, questioning whether she had been neglecting their marriage. Meanwhile, Michael, at work the following day, sought the advice of a trusted friend who was a retired lawyer. After hearing Michael's predicament, the friend enlisted the help of a top-tier investigator to uncover the truth. 2 weeks later, Michael held undeniable evidence of Addison's infidelity, photos and videos that left no room for doubt. But as he sat with the damning proof, his friend posed a critical question. "What will you do now?" For the first time since losing his parents in a tragic car accident 5 years earlier, Michael broke down and cried openly. At the same time, Addison began noticing subtle changes in her husband's behavior. Over the next several days, she scrutinized him, wondering if something had shifted. Addison believed Michael to be incapable of deceit, and felt certain she would recognize any sign of suspicion he might harbor about her affair. Although his quiet demeanor seemed unusual, she dismissed her concerns. In her mind, she labeled her relationship with William as an affair, but rationalized that it wasn't entirely wrong. She convinced herself she wasn't neglecting Michael despite her actions. In the bedroom, however, there was an unmistakable change. Michael, who once shared Addison's enthusiasm for initiating intimacy, had stopped entirely. When she took the initiative a few days later, his response was startlingly intense. This pattern repeated in the weeks that followed. Addison's advances were met with an almost ferocious passion, though Michael never initiated. She failed to recognize that his newfound intensity was fueled not by love, but by simmering resentment. For Michael, these moments of intimacy became an outlet for his frustration. Though his anger simmered beneath the surface, Addison seemed to revel in his aggressive energy. "Show me your strength," she'd tease, seemingly oblivious to his inner turmoil. Her enjoyment left Michael both confused and infuriated, but he kept his true feelings hidden. Afterward, Addison would drift into a peaceful sleep, her thoughts filled with gratitude for the man she loved. Meanwhile, Michael plotted quietly, instructing his lawyer to prepare divorce papers. Although their state's no-fault laws rendered adultery irrelevant in financial terms, he wanted the documentation ready. "Hold on to them for now," he told his attorney. "I'm not ready yet. Maybe she'll realize her mistake. I still love her, even if it sounds foolish." "Do you plan to confront her?" asked his lawyer, John Jefferson. "No," Michael said firmly. "She's too stubborn. If I press her, she'll just dig in. She needs to come to the realization herself." "Fair enough. Let me know when you're ready to proceed." Over the following year, Michael was both baffled and pained by Addison's obliviousness to the widening rift in their marriage. The small gestures of affection they once shared had disappeared. Intimacy, when it happened, felt rote and devoid of emotion. While Addison seemed unaware of these changes, Michael saw the truth. They hadn't truly connected since he discovered her betrayal. Still, he couldn't help but marvel at her ability to maintain the illusion of a devoted wife while balancing her career, hobbies, social life, and an ongoing affair. This delicate equilibrium might have persisted indefinitely if not for an unforeseen complication. Addison's lover, William, received a promotion that required him to relocate to London as a director in his company. He was set to leave in a month. Professionally, Addison was thrilled for him, but on a personal level, she was heartbroken. "Maybe this is a sign," William suggested. "3 years together and we've never been caught. We've been lucky. Perhaps it's time to let it go." The following weeks were emotionally fraught. Addison struggled to keep her composure, and Michael couldn't help but notice her growing distraction. Suspecting trouble in her secret relationship, he observed her discomfort with quiet amusement. Meanwhile, William's wife, Liza, was overjoyed about the move to London, where her family still lived. She took charge of packing and left ahead of her husband with their children, leaving Addison and William with one final week to say goodbye. They planned a weekend in New York to mark the end of their relationship with fine dining, theater, and sightseeing. Addison decided she would be honest with Michael about her trip, a choice that puzzled William. "Why not just say it's for work?" he asked. "Because I've never traveled for business before," Addison replied. "He'd know something was off. If I'm truthful and appeal to his love for me, he'll understand. Logic is on my side here." "If you're sure," William said reluctantly. The night before her planned departure, Addison approached Michael after dinner. Waiting until they were seated on the couch, she hesitated before speaking. "I need to go away this weekend," she began, watching as Michael turned to face her with an unreadable expression. She explained William's promotion and their intention to part ways amicably. "This weekend is our chance to say goodbye," she confessed. "After this, it's over. No texts, no calls, nothing. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Michael struggled to contain his emotions as she spoke, especially when she claimed the relationship had never been physical. Her audacity left him speechless. "You can't do this, Addison," he finally said. "We made vows. You don't get to rewrite the rules for a fling. Does Liza even know about this?" Addison flushed. "I don't know what William told her. She's already in London. But I'm not asking for your permission, Michael. I'm going regardless." "We'll talk more about this when I return," she said, her tone firm but measured. "So that's why you waited until now to bring it up, isn't it?" Michael responded, his voice tight with restrained emotion. "You're not looking for my consent, just hoping I'll forgive you later." "Darling, you always let me have my way eventually," she said, her confidence unwavering. "You'll see that this doesn't really hurt us. In time, you'll either let it go or forgive me completely." "Not this time," Michael said, his tone like steel. "This is where I draw the line. If you step onto that plane, it's the end of us." His words cut through the air, sharp and final. Addison flinched as though struck, but her expression betrayed a lack of full comprehension. That night, Michael considered sleeping in the guest room, but decided against surrendering his space. When Addison eventually joined him in bed, he pretended to be asleep. The morning came early for Michael. Before leaving the house, he noticed a small suitcase placed on the guest bed, hers, packed and ready. By the time he returned that evening, it was gone. He picked up his phone and made one succinct call. "Go ahead," he instructed his lawyer. At a hotel near the airport later that day, Addison waited in a quiet lounge. When a taxi pulled up, William stepped out and began loading her luggage into the trunk. They embraced, sharing a tearful kiss, but the moment was interrupted by a gruff voice calling her name. "Addison Taylor, is that you?" the man said. They broke apart, visibly irritated by the intrusion. "Yes, that's me," Addison replied curtly. The man extended a manila envelope toward her. "Mrs. Taylor, you've been served," he declared. The romantic farewell shattered. Addison stared at the envelope in stunned silence before handing it to William, who tore it open angrily. "Unbelievable!" William shouted. "You told me he'd be rational, that this wouldn't escalate. How did he move this quickly?" Addison could only sob in response, unable to form coherent words. The flight home felt endless. Addison wasn't surprised to find Michael absent at the airport. Instead, she took an Uber to their house. When she stepped inside, he was at the kitchen table, 2 cups of coffee before him. One sat at her usual spot. Recognizing the gesture, she sat down, tears brimming in her eyes. "Stop crying, Addison," Michael said, his voice cold. "If anyone should be crying, it's me. I'm the one you betrayed." Her head snapped up at the accusation. Her tears dried instantly, replaced by anger. "Betrayed?" she said sharply. "I told you exactly what I planned to do." "And did I agree to it? No. That makes it betrayal. You don't get to redefine what's acceptable," he retorted. "It was just a weekend, Michael. 2.5 days out of the thousands we've shared. Is that really worth destroying everything?" "Maybe not," Michael admitted, his gaze locking onto hers. "But it wasn't just one weekend, was it? You've been with him for over 2 years. I've known all along." Addison's confidence faltered for the first time. "How long have you known?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Long enough," he said. "I hoped you'd come to your senses before it was too late. But when you decided to spend that weekend with him, you crossed a line you can't uncross." She felt the ground shift beneath her. Grasping for stability, she sipped her coffee. "Why didn't you stop me sooner? Why not confront me when you first found out?" "I thought you'd stop because you loved me, because it was the right thing to do," he said bitterly. "Clearly I was wrong." "I do love you," she exclaimed. "I've never stopped loving you." "But you love him too, don't you?" Michael's words were laced with venom. She hesitated before answering. "Yes, I love you both," she confessed. "But you're my husband. You've always been my priority." "No, Addison," he said flatly. "There is no priority. There shouldn't be anyone else." "But he's gone now," she pleaded. "It's just you and me." "No," Michael replied. "It's just you. I'm done." "Michael, be reasonable. If he's out of the picture, what reason is there to end this?" she implored. "Would you have stopped if he hadn't left?" Michael asked. Her silence answered the question. "How did it even begin?" he demanded. "Why him?" "You know William," she began cautiously. "You used to like him." "Liked?" Michael interjected. "He's charming, Michael. After you, he's the most attractive man I've ever met. One thing led to another, and feelings developed," she admitted. Michael let out a bitter laugh. "Feelings? So it wasn't just a fling?" "No," she said firmly. "It was real. I loved him." "You can't love 2 people at once," Michael snapped. "I've never denied you anything," she countered. "I've always been there for you." "You gave him what was meant for me alone," Michael said. "This is about more than just intimacy. It's about trust and respect. You've destroyed both." "I won't seek anyone else," she said earnestly. "Most people only find one great love in life. I was lucky to find 2. Michael shook his head. "You don't even understand what you've done. Not once have you apologized." "I'm sorry for hurting you," she said softly. "That was never my intention." "But you don't regret the affair, do you?" he pressed. She hesitated before answering. "No, I don't. I loved him, and our time together mattered to me. I wouldn't trade it for anything." Michael stared at her, his disbelief etched deeply into his face. "What about Liza?" he asked. "Does she know?" Addison froze, dread washing over her. "No, you didn't tell her, did you?" "I did," Michael said. Her voice broke as she whispered, "She'll hate me." "You're probably right," he said, his tone devoid of sympathy. "She deserved the truth. She was as much a part of our circle as he was. True friends don't keep secrets of this magnitude. Besides, if their relationship truly embodied the epic love story he claimed it to be, why conceal it?" Addison's hands clenched into tight fists as her eyes bore into her husband, her frustration reaching a breaking point. "You're making it sound filthy, but it wasn't like that," she hissed, her teeth clenched. Michael crossed his arms, his stance resolute. "Liza won't see it the way you do. Neither do I." Addison's voice quivered with barely contained fury. "They have 2 kids, Michael. Do you understand that your actions could destroy their family?" "Only if Liza sees things my way," Michael replied, his tone icy. "If she sides with you, nothing changes. But if she agrees with me, then the fallout isn't my doing. I'm not the one who spent years sneaking around with her husband." The following day, while Addison was at work, her phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was William. His voice was heavy with a mix of desperation and anger. "Liza hasn't filed for divorce yet, but she won't even let me into the house. I'm locked out in London. Addison, I thought we were friends. How could your husband do this to me?" he demanded. Addison's reply was cutting. "Maybe Michael thinks a friend shouldn't spend 3 years sleeping with his wife." William's tone shifted, tinged with self-pity. "I've tried to talk to him, but he won't listen. He's being stubborn, completely unlike himself. He's always caved before." "This isn't about trivial things like paint colors or furniture arrangements, William. This is far bigger," Addison responded coldly. A heavy silence stretched between them before William sighed and ended the call. A week later, Michael received a call from Addison's father, Ralph Carville. Despite the growing rift between Michael and Addison, his bond with her parents had remained strong, especially since the loss of his own parents years earlier. "Have you 2 thought about counseling?" Ralph asked, his voice filled with concern. "You've been together for 10 years. Weren't you planning on starting a family?" Michael's response was resolute. "That's not happening anymore. Not now." "Don't let something small ruin everything," Ralph pleaded. Michael's tone hardened. "This isn't small. Your daughter has been having an affair with her former boss for over 2 years. On the other end, Ralph's sharp intake of breath was audible. "2 years?" he asked, disbelief coloring his voice. Michael heard Ralph speaking to his wife, Faith, asking if she knew about their daughter's infidelity. Faith's hesitant, stammering responses only stoked Ralph's anger. "For God's sake, Faith," Ralph roared. "How could you keep this from me? He's family. How long have you known?" When Ralph returned to the call, his voice was subdued. "Michael, I'm deeply sorry. I had no idea. Clearly my wife and daughter have been hiding things from me too. I thought I raised her better than this." "We all have our regrets, sir," Michael said. The call ended, weighed down by mutual disappointment. Despite everything, Addison remained adamant against the divorce. During a court hearing, her lawyer suggested counseling, only for the judge to respond with a dry, sardonic chuckle. "Are you serious, Mr. Liston? The evidence clearly shows Mrs. Taylor engaged in a prolonged affair. There's no indication that Mr. Taylor consented to this arrangement. Frankly, only a fool would pursue counseling after such a betrayal," the judge remarked bluntly. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. The only real dispute during the proceedings revolved around the custody of their dog, Hank. Michael assumed Hank would stay with him, but Addison argued that since the dog had been a gift, he should remain with her. Reluctantly, Michael gave in. However, as Michael loaded his belongings into his car, Hank jumped into the passenger seat and refused to move. Addison called out to the dog repeatedly, but Hank ignored her. Frustrated, she physically dragged Hank out, only for him to leap back into the car moments later. "Fine! Keep the damn dog, you bastard!" she screamed, her voice cracking with rage. It was the first time Michael had ever heard her curse. With Hank by his side, Michael drove away, leaving the shattered remains of their relationship behind him. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.